Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
The next thing, and remember built and driven PDA, but the next thing that came up is transitions. We have doctors that have sold their practices to Heartland, like me. We've had offices sold to MB2. We have offices that are selling to what I would call unscrupulous people out there in the marketplace. People who are great salesmen that are making people think it's going to be a good deal, and they're basically getting ripped off. And I'll be honest with you, it makes me sick, it makes me physically ill to see what's happening to some dentists. And it's happened to a couple of our dentists. And we decided we're not going to do that. We're going to actually put together a group.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with Productive Dentist Podcast. Looking forward to today's conversation or today's podcast. We talked about Productive Dentist Academy last podcast, and what I'd like to do is to talk about the evolution of PDA. And I said last time we are member built and driven because we've had over 1,500 dentists come through our programs over 19 years. And, we went from, just doing a seminar for doctors to doing a seminar for doctors and their teams to actually doing coaching in office to building an entire marketing company that does full marketing for practices. And when people have asked, when enough people ask, then we develop something new to offer to our members, to our clients. And that's really where, where IGP came in, investment grade practice. And after I sold my practice, what is an investment grade practice? Well, first of all, I'd recommend that you go listen to the IGP podcast that my partner, Victoria Peterson, does. That is another fantastic podcast that'll tell you a little bit about it. That'll tell you everything about it. But what I want to do is explain why. Why are we doing something called investment grade practice? Well, PDA, the Productivity Workshop, we can help grow your business productively. You can produce more, you collect more, but we really don't look into things that affect your EBITDA or your profit. Now, most of our practices before now, they get much more profitable. There's no doubt. But IGP looks at what happens if you walk away from your practice. Is this practice self-sustainable? When I left Granbury Dental Center, I thought the whole place would implode. But we had great team, great training. We had all the parts in place. We had everything going. And my partner, Jeff Buski, his production per hour was X. Mine was probably double that. Guess what? When I left, his production doubled. He started working with my team and he started working, so that is what an investment grade practice is. But we began to look at EBITDA. What are things that we can do to shave costs? What are things that we can do to increase profits? whether it be, and it may be increasing your marketing to increase your overall revenue. Some people need that. Some people are way overpaying for supply costs, way overpaying for lab, and just don't have that understanding. But our docs, as they've come through, we have developed this program, and it is a separate workshop that we're doing during the PDA workshop. So we'll actually have doctors coming in March, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I think it is. We'll have doctors coming, and they'll be attending the productivity workshop. Most of those are new docs, but we'll have a couple hundred people there, and most are new docs. And the workshop, although we do have what we call repeat offenders, people who come back and just want to hear it again. It may have been 3 or 4 years, and they want to just re-energize themselves and re-energize the team. And then in a separate room, we're going to have the IGP. The IGP group or workshop or platform is a series of speakers, past PDA docs, of what they've done to control expenses, where they, what they look at. And then our group will go through and say, these are the highlights. These are the items that we want to see do better. And again, workshop environment. We're looking at actual things, and there's lectures and everything else. So why did we develop that? Because people asked us to do that. The next thing, and remember built and driven PDA, but the next thing that came up is transitions. We have doctors that have sold their practices to Heartland, like me. We've had offices sold to MB2. We have offices that are selling to what I would call unscrupulous people out there in the marketplace. People who are great salesmen that are making people think it's going to be a good deal, and they're basically getting ripped off. And I'll be honest with you, it makes me sick. It makes me physically ill to see what's happening to some dentists. And it's happened to a couple of our dentists. And we decided we're not going to do that. We're going to actually put together a group, because DSOs are out there. Consolidation is happening. It's going to happen to 65 to 70% of the market, which means 30% of the market's going to continue on just the way they always have. 70% will be working for a DSO or working for, somebody else. Is it concerning? Well, yeah, it is. But I sold 12 years ago. Now, if I would have waited, my $5 million would have been worth $20 million now. So did I make the right decision? Hard to say, yes and no. But what Lampa Dental Group is, and Lampa, the word Lampa comes from my grandfather. My team didn't tell me they were doing this, but my grandfather was a dentist in New York City, was best friends with Babe Ruth. They ran around together for 30 years. And he was a big influence on me becoming a dentist. And so my team thought, this will be awesome. Let's call it the Lampa Dental Group. They didn't tell me a thing. And last September, at our meeting, they announced at the IGP workshop that we are now introducing the new Lampa Dental Group. And what Lampa Dental Group was formed for is for the aggregation of practices. So what does that mean? Well, when I sold to Heartland bought 100% of my business. Okay. And I made 25% of collections. Well, before I was making 40% of collections, but they offered me, a lot of money. And I was like, okay, didn't know the details, didn't know all the stuff. I just said, yes, that's a lot of money. So what I see dentists with 10 offers on the table that have, and this is true story, that had 10 different EBITDAs. And that these doctors and our docs would come to us and say, well, I've got a 5X. Well, I got an 8X. Well, it really depends. And I've talked about it in past podcasts. If I tell you your EBIT is 150, I can pay you $1 million and it would be a 6+X. But if I told you your EBITDA was 250, which is probably more accurate, I tell you you're getting a 4X. So it's a game. You would never let the people who are buying you figure out your profitability. And that's what's happening across the board with DSO. I mean, that's what's going on. So what we've done with Lampa Dental Group, We announced it in September. We actually have 38 offices that are PDA offices, which the practice brokers and the investment bankers that we're working with have said, these practices are unicorn practices. They're amazing. Their profitability is, our average profitability or EBITDA is 23.7 of total. And I would say what we look for is 25% as being like unbelievable. But the average across the industry is about 15%. 15% of your collections that you do yearly is EBITDA. And so our practices, pick up another 8%, which is huge when it comes to multiples. It's huge when we're looking at this. And what did we want to do? By aggregating our offices, and we're doing an initial tranche of offices that are going to sell. But they're going to sell in a joint venture with some hybrid where you may be able to buy into the DSO itself. We're not sure totally on structure yet. And I'm just being honest with you. But these offices, over the next 3 weeks, will be signing a letter of intent, an LOI. Still doesn't lock them in until we entertain private equity groups. And my guess is we're going to have between 50 and 70 private equity groups bidding on our group of unicorn practices. And the other thing is when Heartland buys me at a 5X or a 6X multiple, it's immediately worth 14X to them. How is that? Well, because they're going to recapitalize their investment the next time they do that with a new private equity group. They've gone from the teachers union to KKR, and they keep going to the bigger and bigger groups, and they're monetizing that. So I worked my whole life to get a 6X, and they get 8X just for being around. I didn't like that, and so that's where the Lampa Dental Group, we're looking at probably somewhere around a 10X multiple for the first go, and with an effective multiple of probably around 9. What does that mean? It's about 1%. About 10% of the total transaction is going to be fees, lawyers, attorneys, all that stuff. But to get a 9X on your first bite, there's nobody else. Why are we doing that? Because I want the dentist. We're going straight to private equity. I was told when we put this together that, hey, one of your options would be to sell to Heartland. I said, no way. Sell to MB2? No way. I don't want to sell to anybody else. I want this to be for our doctors, and our doctors are going to be part of our board of advisors. We're bringing in a board that is second to none in the industry. We're actually in the process now of doing all these things. We're building a platform for the DSO. And these are the things that we're working on right now as part of Lampa Dental Group. So our first tranche of 34 practices, which again are unicorn practices, we're going to have somewhere around 25 million in EBITDA. Well, is that a lot? Is it not much? It's an enormous amount. For another office, for another DSO to get 25 million in EBITDA, they may have to buy 120 offices. The one other thing that we have that's going to be very unique is we are baking in to the sale and everything else. And so we're going to monetize our work is we're baking in coaching. So you will have 5 years of coaching, which we know that our coaching clients grow at an average of 13.3% year over year. That is significant. Private equity loves that. That's why we're getting such a great multiple. The second multiple, who knows? The second event, who knows? It'll be down the road. My guess is it'll be 3 to 5 years, probably closer to 3. But that next multiple, we believe, will be 14 plus. A friend of mine just did a deal that they got an 18.3 multiple. So we're somewhere in that neighborhood. Private equity is continuing to love dentistry. They are going to continue. But why would a dentist do this? Why? I'm going to lose control. I'm going to lose my practice. No, you're going to continue to do what you love. You're going to continue to do dentistry in the Lampa Dental Group. You're going to continue to do it the way you've always done it, because why? Why would private equity, a bunch of money guys that don't know sheep shit from cottonseed about dentistry, change what you're doing? And our DSO is definitely not going to change what you're doing. Now, we're going to help. We're going to find better supplies, costs. We're going to find, we'll negotiate with your lab. We'll do the things that can help increase your EBITDA. But bottom line is, what we talked about last week, you're going to take more money off the table over 2, 3, or 4 capital events. It will be 5 times, 6 times what you would take if you just sold it at 80% or 65% of previous year's collections, which will happen again in another 8 or 10 years when consolidation of the dental industry has happened. So I know this has got to give you some questions. I know that you got to be thinking, what the heck? What is this? But get more information, get educated, learn, ask us questions. Bruce at productivedentist.com. Look forward to answering those questions. And I look forward to seeing you at PDA or at the IGP workshop. All you got to do is go to productivedentist.com, go through the website. You'll see all the different options and the different things that we have available for you. So thanks again. I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to next week.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.